This is the Digital Trust Podcast. In every episode, we strive to bring support to those of you who serve on the front lines and in the trenches of data and technology. We endeavor to bring understanding to the under-resourced and underappreciated, help remove your stress, and provide relief to your pain. Welcome to the Digital Trust Podcast. Sit down with us as we give you hard-hitting advisory conversations to help you build digital trust with your stakeholders and clients, and actionable takeaways to help you become a digitally trustworthy organization.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Digital Trust Podcast. I'm your host, Christian Redshaw, and joining me today, all the way from Scotland, are actually three people. So we have a panel from Brim, which is Business Resilience International Management. And first of all, we have Mandy Haeburn-Little. We also have with us Joanna Goddard, and we have Alan Greig with us. Welcome to the three of you today.
We're delighted to be here, Christian. Thank you very much for inviting Brim to be part of your podcast. So I'm Mandy, as you rightly said. So I'm the founder of Brim, and I set it up as the chief executive in 2018. So actually shortly, it will be coming up to 7 years old. And my own background has very much been around business turnaround. So companies and individuals across all sectors who faced very significant challenge. And it may be that they needed assistance with reputation management or strategic planning, or actually the turnaround of a company or a reputation that isn't doing very well. So I'm particularly driven by transformation innovation. You and I have talked a little bit about that previously. And I'm interested in finding solutions to challenges that are different, but also that are niche. And I absolutely believe that with the right people and with the right will, you can achieve almost anything. And that's the philosophy behind Brim. But as part of that, when I started that out, it might help people to understand the background that previously I was chief executive of a public-private partnership, effectively, which was between policing, government, and business in Scotland, which was called the Scottish Business Resilience Centre. And that very much supported all sizes of business, but principally small to medium-sized enterprise who perhaps couldn't afford to have the necessary tuition and skills available at high cost. So it was a very important ethos. So that's how it started.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And before we jump on to Joanna, there are two things that I happen to also know is that you're the architect of the Cyber Resilience Centre model in the UK. So you were very instrumental in that. And you also happen to be the host of your own podcast as well, or the Cyberverse podcast, which is part of the National Cyber Resilience Centre group. So two other fun facts about you, Mandy.
Absolutely. I really enjoy people and finding out more about people. So the podcasts are a really interesting and I hope helpful part of that. Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you. And Joanna, you were the first person that I actually met from Brim. And so I've had multiple conversations with you previously that I've thoroughly enjoyed. So please just introduce yourself. Tell us a bit about your background, your legal background, and everything else that you've been involved in up until now.
Thank you. Yeah, my background was actually commercial. In the olden days, good old-fashioned sales and managing sales teams right across the UK, Scotland, Wales, and then into the middle of London. And over the years, I then established my own company, helping quite a niche market in the rural sector. And actually, the legal team that had advised me asked me to get involved in advising their team. And that's how I fell into professional services, if you like. And where my skills really came to the fore was the convergence of sales and marketing in this digital era. So the approach to marketing being very separate from sales, generating a lead and passing it to a sales team has turned on its head. We all know the world now does their own desktop research on the internet. So I do that through great deep study of data analytics, mapping, digital activity with physical business development, community engagement, sales teams, physical activity, to identify trends and patterns, and then map that with human behaviours to get teams to be more effective at better value. And that skill in particular has translated extremely well to support the policing teams that we help through Brim. And that is how I met Mandy. I also have a management consulting background. So it's one of my mantras. It's one thing to know stuff, but if you cannot teach others it, you're not necessarily a consultant. Being able to help people understand and absorb that information is equally as important. And that's what Mandy is referred to in Brim. It's very important how we help our clients.
100%. Thank you so much, Joanna. And I happen to have a few other facts about you as well. So you mentioned data analytics. So you were the designer of the data analytics model for the Cyber Resilience Center model. You are an advisor to the UK Home Office and law enforcement and commended by the City of London Police, which those last two is something that you have in common with Alan Greig. So Alan, it's now time to go over to you. And if we could get a little bit of a background on you, what you've been up to in terms of helping the small business community, helping business clients, and actually helping secure individuals as well, some notable individuals.
And this may sound a little Oliver Twist, but my career actually started when I was 10 years old. I was given my first computer and I was absolutely captivated with the technology. I wanted to take everything apart and learn how it worked. So for me, my career was decided at a very young age. And then from that moment, it was about understanding the technology. I started my professional career working within government, specifically designing policy for government, but more so assessing and testing government systems. So it's what we would describe as red teaming. Could I gain access to systems and data that I shouldn't have access to? And in doing so, then we could actually determine the security of these systems. I moved on to start a cyber firm, a cyber security firm, and we were incredibly niche in what we did in that we focused on the people element. So rather than making it about the technology, I was very interested in the psychology, the people, the social engineering element. And that led to working for a lot of very high profile, very wealthy individuals who were subject to, unwanted attention online. A lot of stalking cases, which takes you into a very dark world on the dark web, the psychology of individuals who believe that they have a veil of anonymity in using the internet. And I did that until 2019. And I was lucky enough to be able to take a bit of a break. And I joke about maybe it was time to start to whittle spoons in the Highlands of Scotland, and that was my new career. And then I had the privilege of Mandy and Joanna coming to me to say, we have an opportunity here to make a difference in working with policing, national policing, and Home Office to actually help SME business. And I suppose as a technologist, where I've been frustrated throughout my career is that we talk about businesses don't understand the technology and businesses don't understand the risk. And the challenge becomes, how do we change that? As an industry, what can we do to help them? And what we're doing doesn't work. And we had to do something different. And I think in doing something different, we looked at this initiative where policing came to the table and said, traditional policing doesn't work when it comes to online fraud and crime. So therefore, how do we take a different approach?
That's amazing. Thank you for giving us that background to all three of you. So I'm going to put something to the panel because we probably just have time for the one more subject for this particular episode. Can we do a little bit of a deeper dive into how Brim began, how it came together, and what are the initiatives that you alluded to and introduced that you are focused on now in terms of innovation, and kind of who are the key strategic relationships that you have, and how are you leveraging those relationships to make the world a better place?
So perhaps if I start that, Christian, and then the others will join in. So I think the first building block was the fact that the Home Office submitted a tender. So that was open to international companies putting forward their propose solutions to that. And so I needed very nimble brains in terms of reaching maximum number of people and creating that sense of trust within Brim within an extremely short period of time. And of course, I know we'll come on and mention the whole COVID time, but bearing in mind, we were trying to establish a network of police advice and advisory services to the wider business community immediately before lockdown started. So the tender was actually to set up a network of policing cyber resilience centres that would provide advice and services to that business community. And it goes very much back to that ethos of who you're going to call, so the original Ghostbuster theme. Actually, do you call police? Do you call a private sector company? Where can you go where that real trust will lie? And our role was to establish a model that could be replicated across all of England and Wales. And from that, it's then led on to a national company. So for me, the first connection was through the Home Office and then onto national policing and establishing a very high degree of trust with senior policing officers who wished to be a part of this model and help to support the business community. I wondered if Alan might like to explain about bringing in academia, because that was such a core part of this.
Absolutely, Mandy. Academia has been absolutely instrumental in this. But just going back to the very beginning, it's how do you reduce SME organisations' susceptibility to online crime? You have to make them more resilient. And no matter what industry has done, we've struggled with that particular objective. So something had to change. Policing is incredibly focused on helping organisations be more resilient against crime. And when we started to look at the current approach, we thought we need to engage with SME businesses. We need to have a closer relationship with SME business. So 10 centres were created, 9 of them regional centres and the national CRC group, which is the 10th centre. And those centres exist so that businesses can come to a centre and say, I do not understand the technology. I'm aware that I face risk and I need help. Can you help me? So to be able to actually provide those organisations help, we needed to bring 3 sections of everything together, if you like. And that is, we had to bring policing and public sector together with SME business and with enterprise business and with academia. And academia were absolutely key to this, because what we wanted to do is to help academia develop the students. So students who were studying cyber courses were better prepared when they graduated to actually move into cyber roles. And just very quickly, I interviewed hundreds of students at the very beginning of this project. And I asked them all, if I could introduce you to one potential employer tomorrow, who would you like to go and work for? And they all responded with, we would like to work for GCHQ.
Mm-hmm. It really sounds like it's a win for everybody, and we have so much to learn from you on that side of the Atlantic Ocean over here. So I'm looking forward to diving into a few more topics and continuing this conversation in the next episode. And I want to say a special thank you to our viewers and listeners for joining us today, and to Mandy, to Joanna, and to Alan for sharing your wisdom and experience with us. We'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks for joining us today on the Digital Trust Podcast. If you found this conversation helpful, please share it with someone you care about. And if you'd like to receive our monthly newsletter, please click the link in the description to subscribe. And to put your mind at ease, our newsletter will include episode summaries with key points and actionable takeaways, plus a heads up on the upcoming episode guests. Rest assured, it won't be a spammy sales message, and we will never sell or share your information. Thanks again for tuning in, and we will see you on the next episode.